Virtue signaling is always a lie. Really? Hey there, Jared Julia here, and thank you so much for joining me on The Cave. On today's episode, we're going to talk about how virtue signaling is always a lie. But before we get into it, please smack that bell and let me know that you like the video, and please subscribe to my channel. Anyways, on today's episode, we want to talk about how virtue signaling is a lie. And actually, one thing that I hope that you could do for me is come up with an example that proves me wrong. So definitely go into the comments section and give me examples of where virtue signaling comes from a place of honesty, or when someone virtue signals in a public way, that behind all of the virtue signaling was an honest assertion. Because what I argue is that every single example, or at least every single example of virtue signaling that I've ever come across, behind the virtue signaling is an outright lie. And I wonder what woke is teaching our children. That woke ideology is being kind of crammed down their throats in our education system. It seems like it's valuing dishonesty and saying that dishonesty is this high value, and that people like, Snowden have been punished for telling the truth. And that other people, when they've said things that are honest but politically incorrect, or they've been honest and they've turned out to be some kind of a microaggression, that they're to be punished. So I think it's fascinating that we live in an age where people are punished for telling the truth, and people are fabulously rewarded for lying. And I wonder what this is doing to our kids. There's an article, and I've got a link to it also in the comments below. And the article is about 13-year-olds just tell teachers what they want to hear. It's kind of a disturbing article. But these kids have simply learned that dishonesty is, that there's rewards for dishonesty, and that really open and honest debate is not valued in the classroom any longer. So you just tell the teacher what they want to hear, and you can just get through the class and pass it. But I don't know if if that kind of approach is best for education. So anyways, exploring dishonesty as a virtue, I remember watching this video. I've got to think of the name of the comedian, but he's talking about the WNBA and how nobody watches it. And somebody in the audience actually raises their hand, and it was a college student, a guy, and he says, well, actually, I watch the WNBA a lot, and I think it's a very good league. I think it's great, blah, blah, blah. And the guy said, oh, okay, so you're a fan. What team are you a fan of? And there was silence. He said nothing in response to this. And you could tell the camera was on him. You could tell that he was getting embarrassed. And he's like, so can you name 2 or 3 teams? Can you name one player who plays on a WNBA team? And through it all was silence. The guy was so humiliated. But it got me thinking, oh my God, all virtue signaling, because he was trying to virtue signal. He was like, well, I watch the WNBA. Well, if you're a fan, then you can name some teams, right? For instance, I'm a fan of the NFL. I can name all 32 teams in the NFL. I can even name a half dozen teams that are now defunct, or teams that are old names of teams, like the Tennessee Titans used to be the Houston Oilers. The Dallas Texans still exist, but we know them as the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Staleys are now the Bears. So I can even name that because I'm a serious fan of the NFL. But I'm not a fan of hockey. I like the game, but I can't consider myself a fan. I certainly don't watch it very often. But yet I could name a half dozen teams, NHL teams. I could name a half dozen players. They'd have to be really famous, really popular, really good in order for me to know who the heck they are. But still, I could name a few players, and I don't even consider myself a hockey fan. If you can't even name one team of a league that you supposedly watch, I mean, that's pretty, I mean, I don't think you have to be a sports fan to know what an outrageous lie that is. But it also got me thinking about the WNBA and how remarkable it is in a very odd and perverted way. But it is remarkable. This one comedian from a long time ago who once described women as these beautiful, magical magnets, and that men are nothing but really cheap metal, you know? And it's so true because we're so drawn to what women are doing, and we're drawn to women, and and it's just kind of one of those funny things. You would think that a bunch of women together doing something would attract a lot of male attention, i.e. the WNBA. But the WNBA, it's even worse than that because they're young women. They're women who are in shape. They're women that aren't wearing a lot. They're women that are running up and down a court, and, they're getting hot and sweaty. It's like it's almost amazing that they got men to totally ignore the WNBA. I mean, isn't that kind of an accomplishment, it's like, I could just imagine the people that form the NBA going to Walmart and getting these lab coats, and putting them on and getting this machinery that has these flashing lights that don't actually signify anything, and all these fake graph sheets. And, and they've got this pointer, and they're very authoritatively pointing to the fake, graphs and saying, look at this. We've come up with the formula to get men to ignore a bunch of women who are attractive and young and are out there exerting themselves, Only we, the geniuses of the WNBA, could come up with this magical, very complex formula. We're freaking geniuses, I mean, it's pretty unbelievable if you think about. And there was this one guy who was thrown out of a WNBA game. He was sitting right in the front row, and it's funny because when you think of courtside seating, you think of Spike Lee and the New York Knicks, or think there's never a seat courtside, even if the team isn't very good. And yet here, courtside for WNBA games, there's just mass of empty seats. And the reason why this guy got thrown out was because he took up 3 seats. And the reason why he took up 3 seats is he was sleeping. He was lying down and he fell asleep, and security came over and kicked him out. How do you get men to ignore women? And of course the answer is woke. I mean, it's just, they've just made it what should be a huge draw into the exact opposite. It's just unbelievable. But anyways, like I was saying before, your homework assignment for tonight is to come up with a virtue signal that is honest. Somebody virtue signaling publicly, and what was behind it was the truth, and not a lie like, oh, I'm a WNBA fan, but I can't name a solitary NBA team or WNBA player. Be interesting to see if there's any actual examples of an honest virtue signaling, or if I can honestly say that all virtue signaling, every example of virtue signaling, is a lie. So, anyways, thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you next time on The Cave. Thanks so much. Well, if you liked what you saw, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to smack that bell.